Hello and welcome to the 64th episode of In Our Defense. And it's a very busy week for Abhishek and I. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the US where he'll be meeting President Joe Biden as we record tomorrow. We record usually every Wednesday or Thursday. So he's about to meet President Biden on Thursday. And we expect a lot of announcements from the visit. Some of them to do with what Abhishek and I discuss on this podcast, the world of defense. We'll cover that next week, perhaps, depending on what the outcomes are. Before we began, Abhishek and I were just talking. We kind of briefly discussed that during last week's episode.
Probably the biggest takeaways from the visit would be defense-related.
Defense-related, yeah. And we had kind of mentioned the Predator drone deal that is almost going to be signed.
The GEHL
and the engine deal, yeah. So, busy day, I'm guessing, for you.
Yeah, it's very busy. And I think it'll be like this for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
So, we've just had to squeeze in some time to record this podcast. Yeah. And, we had no choice, no option, but to do it today.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, we have a guest with us.
We have a
today.
guest,
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah, this is our third guest, if I'm not wrong. Third or fourth guest, if I'm not wrong, Let's introduce our guest. It's Colonel Rajvir Sharma, retired from the Army in 2019 after a 30-year career. And he runs an academy where he trains aspirants for SSB interviews. The academy is called the Future Army Officers Academy. SSB is something I know very well.
Like we've close discussed. To your heart. You've mentioned it so many times.
I've let you know so many times. You talk as though like I've been poking it as a baap. आप नहीं गए थे, मैं गया था. आप defense cover करते हो, but मैं ऐसे भी गया था. It's not like that, by the way.
No, I don't mean anything of that sort.
Of course. SSB is obviously, like anyone who follows the world of defense in the Indian setup obviously would know, is the last sort of hurdle. Not last per se, there's medical after that, but the last hurdle before you get selected for any of the academies that train you to be an officer in the Indian military, whether it's the Air Force, Army or Navy. And I'm very interested to know from Colonel Sharma of what does the SSB look for? Because, if I remember my days when I had gotten the letter to appear in front of the SSB. It was in Bhopal. And I used to frantically Google ki SSB mein kya dhoondte hai.
At least there was Google.
There was Google.
I'm sure there was a generation, Colonel Sharma's generation.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Google
certainly. He, I think, got commissioned in 1989, right. Tabhi to obviously there was no Google to...
89, I passed out.
Right.
Yeah.
So before that, so a couple of years, 3 years
Google
before
was
that,
certainly not there.
Certainly not there. So let's take it from there first. So just like in concise detail, can you tell us what does the SSB look for?
See, I always tell my candidates, SSB is one of the most easiest tests one can qualify, but results are always less than 1%. SSB is looking for a very straightforward military leader who is courageous, who has got initiative, who is truthful, who is honest, and who has got a feeling of camaraderie for his brother officers and his troops also. That's why SSB is looking for a military leader. And I think, you should have an adequate knowledge of what is going on in country and around the globe also. And your basic IQ has to be slightly higher than a common man. You are going to lead the troops. It's a nation's pride. That's what SSB is looking for.
Besides the academic part of it, and we keep hearing that military leaders need to be different and things like that, and they're very different from civilian life. What are the hits and misses that one should look at when going for an SSB? Things that one should completely avoid, and things like somebody should really focus on to make sure that you catch the attention of the board.
See, the SSB has got tests of 3 varieties. But all 3 tests are looking for the same quality, but in a different way, with different tests. Like you have got a psychology test on. In fact, first day it's a screening test. In screening test, almost general trends is seen. 80 to 85% people, they go out on the first day, which is called screened out. balance whatever strength is remaining. Then you undergo psychological test, then ground test, and then interview.
So what are the attributes, Karan Sharma?
Yeah,
what are the
attributes.
attributes,
Firstly,
psychological tests for a layman, for somebody like me who's
okay.
not been to SSB, or a youngster who's listening to this.
The first and
what do you mean by psychological tests? What are the personality traits
Yes.
that one needs to keep in mind?
First and foremost, very simple. People have made this SSB very complex in their feeling and whatever they discuss. Very first and foremost thing, one has to be truthful. When you are not truthful, let me tell you, if suppose I have now come from Delhi to Noida, if I have really traveled, then I know which all places came, what time I have taken, which vehicle will take. This is a hypothetical example I am telling. But if I try to manipulate, I have come by taxi, I say I came by my own vehicle. Then in vehicle also, somebody say I came by my Mercedes. No,
Be
nobody is
straightforward.
interested. Whether you have come on bicycle or you have come running or you have come in a Mercedes or maybe in a chopper. Nobody is interested. They are just looking into the personality of the individual. SSB is not looking in an individual whether he comes from what kind of affluent background. Not at all. Whether your father is a jamidar of, let's say, 400 acres, or he is a business tycoon, or he may be a simple farmer. SSB is not interested. But people, the 50% of the people get out because they do not tell truth. They try to exaggerate things or they try to manipulate things.
Over impress.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like if I try to say, okay, I have got a Mercedes in my house. My PIQ form, the personal information questionnaire, that tells me what is my father's income, what job, what is his profession, what is the profession of my mother, and if I have got elder brother or sister also working, and even their salary is also written in that. How you can do? But people forget while writing. Like I will quote an example. A few days back, I was interviewing a candidate who had just come back. In fact, that day he was in Bangalore itself. He got conference out. On the 5th day he got out. And that very day, somehow he contacted me and I could see a child sweating out. I said, okay, let's fix your interview. And he was BSc Agriculture from Punjab. So I asked him question pertaining to some agriculture background. Since I also belong to Haryana, I know something of agriculture. And in his SD is a self-description in which an individual writes what is my parents' opinion about me, what is my teacher's opinion, if employed, what is my boss' opinion about me, and even what is a friend's opinion about it. In that he writes that my parents, before taking any decision, they always consult me. They consider me a very responsible person and I am part of all decisions in my family. They're very simple thing. Anybody can write. And it happens also when a child is grown up at the age of 20, 21, parents do take their advice. But now, I asked him a question, like after a series of questions, somehow it's right. I said, okay, you're a BSc Agriculture. Your father has got a lot of farms. What all new thing which you have done in your farm or in an agriculture system of your family, since you are BSc Agriculture.
Yeah, because of your degree.
And now he tells me in Punjabi, sir, मेरी तो कोई सुनता ही नहीं है. मेरे पापा दे बड़े साढ़े बड़े पिओ हो गए. उन्हां दा डिसीजन चलता था मेरे पापा दा आंदा तो ताऊ दे बेटे है. सर मेरी तो घर में कोई सुनता ही नहीं है. मैं बताता रहता. Now see,
So there's a contradiction.
now see, child has contradicted. There on one side he's trying to project that he's a hell of a cat. Everybody is asking him, and now on first question itself, like after a series of initial questions were just to make him comfortable. But when I asked the meaningful question, this was his reply. Now one side he's telling, I'm an important person, and he himself is telling, sir, साड़ी तो कोई सुनता ही नहीं है.
Nobody listens to us.
Nobody listens to me. See, there's a contradiction. He could have easily said, sir, they considered me very responsible. I have been a disciplined child. There has never been complaint against me.
I'm the youngest in the family.
Yeah.
They treat me like a kid. Or whatever.
Everybody loves me and they take care of me. This could have been. They are not asking what decision they are taking, but unnecessary. He has tried to exaggerate thing or manipulate the thing.
Over-impress.
And SSB, defense officer cannot be a manipulative person. Defense officer cannot exaggerate things. He has to call a spade, whether somebody likes it or somebody does not like it. But he will say, yeah, sometimes your words can be different. That's all. But he will not agree. See, he is dealing with the defense of the nation. Every minute things changes. How manipulation cannot work.
There needs to be clarity in the way one
crystal
thinks
clear.
and gives
his
instructions.
actions, his words, his whatever he plans, it has to be crystal clear. Otherwise, things will not work. That's what I feel.
Yeah, he almost makes it sound like SSB rocket science.
Yeah.
It's just like a job interview, because what he described right now is something that you and I would do if we were interviewing
But
somebody.
the difference that I felt is that in job interview you would want to really impress.
Yeah.
Here it is be yourself. I mean, maybe in a job interview also people should try to be themselves. Maybe they get success.
But thoda sa they'll try.
But here this is I think the norm.
See, there is a test in psychology which is called a story writing test. One after the other, 12 pictures, they come on the screen. 30 seconds, 4 minutes to write, 30 seconds, 4 minutes to write. You see, you cannot manipulate. You may write 3 or 4 stories which you might have mugged up on a similar kind of picture. But after 5th or 6th story, your real personality will start coming out.
I can attest to that, because having done that, because the reason for that is the time span is very less. They don't give you, they just show you that image for I think 30 seconds and give you a couple of minutes to write a story. So like he's saying, you can go prepared. कि अच्छा ऐसा दिखाएंगे तो ऐसा लिखूंगा. I'll show myself as a hero. Like if they show some sort of fire and one character jumping into it, I'll try to write a story. कि I am that person and I'm the one who's saving lives. But in that moment, when you just have 2 minutes and you have the pressure of going to the next story immediately after that, you just are not able to.
It's all time pressure test, because given good conditions, sitting in AC, had nice lunch or breakfast, things work in a different manner. But a defense officer will be working in a warlike situation where maybe in a minute he may be giving more than a dozen of decisions. So it has to be, it's a time pressure test. When things are odd, still your brain is working same. That is a requirement.
One more thing that you mentioned that caught my attention was, truthfulness and being honest to your jawans, to your brother officers. So that's, I think, another important trait which sometimes we sort of overlook. I'm not saying in civilian life we shouldn't be honest towards our colleagues, but it could be an attribute, it could be a personality trait that's not really doesn't make you you will not get extra marks for it, kind of a thing. You'll get extra marks for doing your work well. But here it's extremely important. And in fact, one story comes to my mind. Maybe I've mentioned it before. I came across some information, some story that somebody in one of the academies was sacked, a cadet was sacked because of cheating in an assessment, in a test. So, for us civilians, again, we don't mean to say that in civilian colleges cheating should be rampant or anything. But what's the first impression that you get? That it's a little harsh.
Yeah.
You've ruined somebody's career. That's the first impression you get as a civilian. So while I was discussing this with an officer, the gentleman gave me a very simple explanation, and I was completely convinced. The explanation was that if as a cadet you're cheating on your brethren, how can you be trusted in war?
Yeah.
Certainly so much
responsibility. I mean, that's something, it just opened up my mind, and that's an attribute that I think would stand out. That first of all, more than yourself, you need to be extremely caring, loving, benevolent towards your soldiers, your colleagues.
Correct. Your honesty, your courage, your faith, reliability. It has to be crystal clear.
It's not just an individual task.
So many seniors and so many subordinates are watching you every second.
And unlike other jobs where you can work individually and really, make your bosses feel that you are the star. This is probably a profession where there's no scope for working in isolation.
Of course. It's a
It
team.
has to be
It's
teamwork
team
every
work
time.
altogether.
And worst or best thing you can say, teamwork, especially in an odd situation.
Yes.
There can be odd situation which cannot be even imagined.
Yeah.
And still, it is expected a defense officer, he has to give the best result, whether he had food since last 3 days or not, whether his colleague or he himself is lying injured, nothing doing. He has to work.
In fact, what you said about...
I will quote an example. I had a senior in my regiment, and I feel lucky that once I got a chance to serve with him in an organization for a short period. He was about to get posted out, and I was just posted in there. During 1971 during the war, his wife died, and he received a telegram. He kept that telegram with himself, and he told the head clerk not to disclose it to the commanding officer. And when the war was over, then he was still waiting the things to settle down, because that cloud of war was still on. And commanding officer asked him, why you were hiding this telegram? This is an offense. He said, sir, if I had asked you during the wartime, I am doing the adjutant's duty, which is a very important appointment in the battalion. Yes. And sir, could you have trusted me that during war, he used to call himself Thakur Sahab. He said, sir, ठाकुर साहब की इज्जत है पलटन में कि और वॉर टाइम में छुट्टी चले जाए, नहीं हो सकता. And when he reached back, all the formalities of the rituals were already done. And I met him at a later stage. I met his second wife also. His 2 sons are now army officer. Even one of the daughter-in-law is an army officer.
Oh, what a lovely story.
Yeah. See, that's army. And had he asked for leave, I think people would have doubted, surely. But he said nothing doing. That telegram was in his pocket. And see how the people learn. The training is such. And you have to be that mentally robust. You cannot be selfish in army.
Yeah,
You have to be a team man.
Yes,
You have to be team man.
In fact, what do you say about being a team? In fact, one of the 3 officers in the SSB who take your test through the course of the 5 days, he's called a group task officer, where basically are several tasks in a group, basically team tasks. So they also take a look at you, how do you perform when you are given hypothetical situations with a group of people and not just solo. It's never just solo. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, very rightly he said, you are tested in a group, like how you behave in a group. You may be the best person.
Yeah.
You may, like there are few tests where even your individual capacity also you are judged. You may be best, but if you are not fitting into the group, how you tackle your subordinates, and your behavior may be different with your seniors, but if you do not take care of your subordinates, you are not a good military leader.
Yes, it's true.
And that's what all these qualities are tested.
No, you are not a good leader at all. If but in other places, you can get away with it.
Yeah, you'll be a bad boss, and
there will be a bad boss. You'll be a bad leader.
In defense,
you might still continue.
Yeah.
Here, you will be not just a disaster for yourself, but for so many others.
Yeah.
Yes. In defense, like you see, your subordinates, they work on your verbal orders.
Yeah.
They lay down their life on your verbal orders. See the kind of faith they have got in their leaders. Soldier fights so well because he knows his leader is also fighting with him, either standing on his left or right. That's why the soldier fights, and that's why the military leadership is required. This is a very scientific and time-tested system. Somewhere in 1940 we evolved this. America adopted this system during First World War. Because earlier all officers used to be from the royal backgrounds.
Yeah.
But it was seen that I think around First World War, in a lot of battles, these people from royal background, they were found missing in the battle. Then this scientific system was evolved. India adopted somewhere in 1940.
You mean of testing candidates?
This testing system. It is purely a scientific system. And you are under so much of time pressure that you have to vomit out your original personality. They will make you. And in one test, you can hide yourself. Second, you will not be able to hide. Third, like after story writing 12 stories, 30 seconds they show a picture, 4-minute write story. Again, 30 seconds, 4 minutes, 30 seconds, 4 minutes. And the moment that test is over, then second test, there is a word association test. Like we start making sentences somewhere in first or second standard itself. Not, I think, generally around first standard we make sentences.
Maybe basic
But
sentence, yeah.
on a very simple word, your psyche comes out when you see a word for 15 seconds and then you have to write a sentence 15 seconds, 60. The original person will come out.
Yeah.
You cannot hide. Whether you are smart or whether you are courageous or not courageous, or whether you are confused, or whether like whatever kind of behavior
So
attributes you have.
that poses a question
Yeah.
to you, especially because you're running an academy. So if the original person comes out, how much can you train a person? How
Yeah.
much of a challenge is that?
Very good
I know. That's why I have always said it is one of the, I feel SSB is the easiest test in the world to become an officer, but results are less than 1%. See, trainability is always there. In like we all have been students in various university, various departments, science, commerce, arts. Trainability, like you might have seen a boy or a girl who were not doing well in 8th or 9th, suddenly they come up in the board and they perform very high.
Yes.
And somebody not in 10th, by 12th they rise up, and all those who are doing well, they have come down, and these people rise. Trainability is a great factor. Trainability comes to you firstly like how you have been groomed up. Then what kind of background or in atmosphere you have stayed. And I will just give you a simple example. Let us take 2 pieces of land. One piece of land, every time like fertilizers, manure, pesticide, watering has been done. Another side is a farm, is a piece of land where it depends on the rain god, and still almost they are giving a good, almost neck to neck quality of crop. So I feel the land which was never given timely water, not fertilized or manured, it has got more scope of trainability. Similarly, like candidate who comes from a very good background, highly top class education, he and a person coming from, let's say, from a very remote place, from any corner of the country, if both give almost same performance, then a person who has not got facilities, has never like got exposure to good quality of even books also, the quality of teachers, the quality of, let's say, the peer group, I think his trainability is much higher. And always, sometime...
Somebody who's raw, you mean?
Yeah, raw. And like few minutes back when Dev was asking me, I feel initially people go to SSB without preparation. And in this category, especially there is a class which I have observed, there is my personal observation, that they do not prepare so well and they just think I will just walk
So
in.
who are these kind of people? I mean, have you been
Generally
able
in
to,
this class,
profile
initially the first timer and those who excel might have excelled in their particular field, and certainly
we were really interested. I think we are getting close
Yeah,
to that. You know, the changing nature of recruits, or especially the officers. There was a time that officers came from a particular strata of society and were so many of them public school educated, slightly elitist. Slowly that's changed. It's an open playing field, not just here, probably in all walks of life. How do you think that's changed, particularly in the defense forces?
Yeah, you can say the playing field was same. Even like you may talk, let's say 30 years back or 50 years back or 40 years back, it is level is same because SSB is same. Whichever strata people came, SSB judges in the same manner. So firstly, the kind of lot which is coming, they are good military leaders, and in various war-like situation, every day you see, it's a defense officer, they never hesitate in laying their life also. We have seen Kargil recently, and every day counter-insurgency operations are going on. Every day people are battling in Glacier. Now, see, even at that time, when I entered the defense, 30 years plus back, and even my seniors have seen, quite a good strength came from Sainik schools, military schools, and
Yes, probably in your generation, Sainik
even-
schools were very much.
even when I was student, that time I think 17 Sainik schools were there in the country, 5 military schools were there. Now I think 18 or 19 Sainik schools are there, and still 5 military schools are there. The situation is same.
Yeah.
And RIMC also, RIMC Dehradun. These are the institutions which have been feeding officers in defense forces. And other than that also, people from all strata even came at that time also, and now also. It is, firstly, any child, he has to be motivated for this. And even that time, like even my seniors, even before them, there are even people from a lot of, you can say, royal backgrounds also.
Yeah.
Even now also they are there. Now also it is the same, I feel. And whatever condition may change, SSB will not change. So the selection, the playing field remains same. Now, in fact, yes, one more thing has taken place. With the increase of social media, the information is available to a person who is sitting in the remotest of the village.
Yeah.
Like I had cadets from hills of Sikkim, even Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep also, and from Badmer also. Now a farmer's son sitting at his tubewell also, he just put his dongle and he can Google out the
Do you
information.
think there is more hunger, drive in people from humbler backgrounds? That's my direct question. Let's not beat around the bush. I mean, earlier we saw officers from elite backgrounds, second, third generation also, who would be at the top rung always. Now, slowly that's changing, and you come across these extremely inspiring stories every time a POP passing out parade takes place. That a sweeper's son has topped the academy. He's got the sword of honor, and there are many examples like this, and they're extremely inspiring. I mean, frankly, if I were to be commissioned as an officer, my parents would be extremely proud. And I got all opportunities. So here are youngsters who have stood against all odds and then reached. So what sort of impact is it making in society? Because you are dealing with a lot of youngsters who are coming from all sorts of backgrounds.
Yes. Firstly, you're right. People from all backgrounds are coming. But before that, I like to say my views on this. तरक्की करना हर एक का अधिकार है.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
और वो हिंदुस्तान का नागरिक है, तो उसको हक है कि कोई भी किसी जॉब में जा सकता है, और ये कॉम्पिटिटिव जॉब है. Person coming from royal background or elite background or some business tycoon family, everybody has to prove. Now that playing field which you are talking, if these people are proving better than like any higher educated person coming from best of the schools, and if you are able to beat them, I think they are better.
Yes.
They will serve the nation better. SSB has got nothing to do with your humble background. I have already said.
Very well said, yes.
और मैं हमेशा इस चीज़ में मेरा विश्वास है कि तरक्की करना हर एक किसी का अधिकार है, उसको कोई नहीं रोक सकता. और वो भी हिंदुस्तान जैसे मुल्क में जहाँ हम डेमोक्रेसी में रहते हैं. Gone are the days when things were connected only to royal people or rich people. No. We require military leaders who has to safeguard the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. We want those people from which background they are coming. SSB is not interested.
I think it's a good point he made about this social media and internet age having spread the word about the fact that almost anyone from any part of the country or any background can go and apply to be an officer, as long as you have the minimum educational qualification that is required. Because if you just Google the word SSB or how to appear for the NDA or how to appear for the IMA, you'll have tons and tons of pages just like giving lots and lots of information. So I think that's a very good point. I mean, this is something that we discussed. Ki you have a lot of people from a very diverse background. Suddenly,
No,
appearing
they're
in-
inspiring stories, as I said. Every
Yeah.
time I read such a story in a newspaper, I myself have covered passing out parades and I've come across such inspiring stories. So, I mean, for me, that's what stands out.
Yeah.
That people from all sorts of backgrounds, and it's not easy. As I said, if I were to be commissioned when I had all opportunities, my parents would still be proud of me. And so just imagine these young kids and what their parents would be.
I'd
how
like
they
to
would be
add
feeling.
one thing to this. See, they are already fighters. They have fought their
They-
way.
yeah,
Fought
they-
their-
they
They have
fought-
fought
yeah.
their way.
There, by the way, yeah.
See,
Yes,
they already have got true quality of fighters,
Yeah.
which we require.
Maybe
And
So that's an
grooming.
attribute.
Yeah,
So that's the
the
attribute
that's what I feel.
that sort of makes them stand out
Yes.
vis-a-vis some of the others.
Maybe that's the grooming that you were talking about.
Yeah.
The grooming that you said that you sometimes need to have before. Like everyone has some sort of trainability. Just like that extra kick of grooming that'll perhaps make you stand out at the SSB.
And I want to
interview.
discuss something very, very interesting with Colonel Sharma relating to this.
Let's do after
the break?
Yeah,
Yeah,
after,
I thought
after a
so.
quick break. Yeah.
And in fact, that's the high point.
Yeah. So let's just take a quick break. We'll be back. Welcome back. Abhishek and I are talking to Colonel Rajvir Sharma, who runs an SSB training academy after serving for 30 years in the Indian Army.
Good tips to
Good tips,
youngsters
yeah.
who want to aspire to be
And I think one of
officers
his
in forces.
most insightful one, and I'll be honest, is the one even I got 10 years ago when I went for my SSB, was that just be yourself and be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
Don't try to
Don't
scam
try
them. Don't
to,
try
yeah,
to show
Oversmart,
some
yeah.
that you're not, because they'll catch you, because that's what the whole 5-day interview is all about. Not catching you per se, but just like getting to know you so that they can truly understand whether you're you have those qualities which they can use to train you into becoming an officer. Before we took the break, you wanted to ask Colonel Sharma a question, and I said,
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to know that, of course, he's dealing with so many youngsters, but now the Indian forces, I mean, they were open to women before, but now it's gone a step further. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, a step further,
The National Defence Academy is open to women cadets. So what's the inflow of women coming to you and young girls who want to
Yes,
join
yes.
the forces? And by the way, again, sorry, I mean, we are discussing a women issue without a woman on board. So Anna might,
Yeah, once
producer,
again.
might not like this, but
I
I
think
think this will
it's- yeah.
qualify.
Yeah,
Anna,
because
do we have your permission that this qualifies? Because he's somebody who's dealing with
candidates who come for
That's why the
SSB
question to
training,
him. Otherwise, she's very strict about it. She says that you're not supposed to discuss any women issue without a woman being part of the discussion.
I think
And I get a point.
agree
by the
with
way.
her.
I get a point as
I
well.
agree with her, and I really appreciate
Yeah,
this.
so, but we have our permission
But I,
now.
like you said,
we have a
this
permission.
case qualifies. So, yeah.
Okay. Firstly, I feel it is not only NDA which has been opened to the women category. Now, even Sainik School and military
Sainik
schools.
schools as well, yes, very
Yeah,
true.
I visited my school. I am from Rashtriya Indian Military School, Dholpur.
Okay.
And in November 22, when I went there, I saw the first batch of girls. There were 6 girls. And since the infrastructure has to be created, maybe in a coming 2-3 years, the strength will go to 50.
Yeah.
One house has been earmarked. In NDA, one squadron has been earmarked.
Yes.
In most of the Sainik school, the first batch has started. In fact, for NDA, I think it is the 3rd batch which will be joining. I feel Hindustan ki betiyan kisi se kam nahi hai. Whenever we have got a chance, you see, they have proved themselves, whether it was going to Olympics, whether it was going around the world in a slight small dinghy, or it is going to Everest. They have proved their mettle whenever chances have been given. Indian society has been slightly miser on giving chances to the woman. And I strongly feel, see her medal tally in Olympics.
And women are part of artillery also, something that I
Yeah.
forgot to
Now,
mention.
artillery, all the services we already had, ordnance,
Yeah.
ASC,
Because
EME,
the armed,
even in signals also, it's a fighting arm. In signals we have got women, and now artillery.
Air defense has
Air
been-
defense we had
even earlier.
Earlier also.
Pilots, women pilots.
We had women pilot, a group of 4 pilots which had joined, I think, 3-4 years back.
And now there are 16 fighter pilots.
Yeah, with Avni Chaturvedi was
Yes,
one of the
yes. Now there are
first
16 fighter pilots, and even Army Aviation has opened up to women.
Surely, and it's a very good step. And why not given a chance? See, so many armies of the world, they have got women commanding officers, they have got women soldiers, and they have proved their mettle. And I feel Indian daughters are better than any of the girls anywhere on the globe. It's a very right step. I really appreciate it. Yeah, only place now left is infantry, about which
Infantry and armored corps.
for which there are some constraints and a lot of brainstorming is being
but
done.
even the military leadership and the government at some point of time will be sort of pushed and almost forced to change this because of technical reasoning here, which is that if women are going to NDA, they are training exactly the way men cadets
Correct.
are trained from the scratch. So if you're training them exactly in the same manner, like you're training the men, on what ground are you going to
Then you're gonna
say that you
cannot
are
be
not
the
fit
infantry. Yeah.
for those roles? So I think the ground is getting set somewhere.
I've got a point. Let me tell you. Firstly, I am more than convinced, and I want to tell that don't be surprised that maybe after 30 odd years there will be a woman chief of army staff or woman chief of air staff. Those days are not very far.
No, women chief of air staff is very much a possibility because they are fighter pilots.
Even army chief you will see. But don't be surprised.
Yeah, yeah.
It will happen. And country is moving in a very good direction.
Yeah,
And-
forget gender. I mean, we've had the first
Yeah.
engineer male army
Yes.
chief. So that was also a first
Yeah.
in so many years.
Yes.
An engineer officer becoming
Yeah.
the chief. So
The present chief.
Yeah.
Yes. So the capability wise, no less. Anywhere, like certainly the change of mind is required. Change of thought process is required. And things will come into its place. The go is in you, I think things will come into place.
do women candidates come to you as
Yeah,
part of training?
I
What's
must.
your
Yeah, I am sharing with
experience
you.
of interaction?
I think if you see on my website, I have not counted, but I think 7 or 8 candidates have already made it. Maybe more than that. I want to be on the correct side. Anytime you can visit my website, Future Army Officer Academy, and with every batch, now I will say almost 40% strength is women only.
Wow, okay. It's interesting.
There are 2 things in that also.
Every batch that comes to you.
Every
so
batch which
40%.
comes to me, 40%
So that
strength.
shows the kind of interest,
Interest there is,
that there is.
I want to say one more thing also. Vacancies for women candidates are less.
Yeah.
If increased,
They'll be-
or
they'll
if
be
they are
very
mixed up with the male batch, I'm more than sure, I think they will overtake the male candidates.
Yeah.
I am very sure about it.
I mean, even though NDA is open, but vacancies are so much less compared to the male
Vacancies
candidates.
in NDA are less. Okay, it will keep increasing.
will
It will
increase,
come
they
to a
need-
squadron
yeah, yeah,
strength. Vacancies in military school, Sainik school, RMC, it will increase. Vacancies in OT are also quite good. I think some more vacancies are required to be increased in NCC. A lot of girls get merit out. Vacancies are required to be in FCAT for the women, because a lot of girls after selection they get merit out. I think that talent should not be wasted. The people who have already been selected, who have already got recommended from SSB, I think some increase of vacancy can boost up the morale of girl child.
It's interesting. I mean, the fact that 40% of people who come to him are women, and that's just one academy for SSB. That's of the many that run in the country. That's the interest there is. Before we draw this to a close, just kind of go back to SSB. I just want to end on a thoda sa fun note. I mean, it's more for my actual consumption. Back then, when I was looking up all these websites, and there were abhi to nahi hota itna, but back then there were a lot of forums. Okay, something on the lines of Reddit, but not exactly that. I forgot the names now, but forums of aspirants who wanted to, and they'll get advice. There are a lot of myths about the SSB. So one, I'm not sure if it's a myth by the way, till this date, but that sure made me conscious during those 5 days, is that apart from the time that you are being tested, which is in a room or out in the field or in an interview, there are so-called spies of the officers who just watch all the candidates, how they behave during the informal hours, whether you're eating your dinner, breakfast, jo bhi hai, it's free time hai sham ko, just
Keeping a watch on you.
and one day in the 5 days you get to go around the city where this SSB is. So mine was Bhopal. So they take you out themselves in the bus, and they'll show you the landmarks. And even then,
Is it true?
Is it true? This one.
Okay.
And
Fine.
one, is this true? And iske alawa, what all myths have you heard about SSB selection processes that you know?
Okay, I agree with you. These kind
to
of
hota
myths
hai.
keep floating around.
Some myths.
And even there are myths, you said from the first day, I have even heard there are myths, even people say, sir, the time you get down from the train.
Oh, yes.
people let me tell you, SSB people do not have that extra time.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
They are not, start testing you when you enter inside.
Enter the place.
And let me tell you, all the days, from morning after breakfast, your test will start. And by afternoon, I think around 2 o'clock, all your test will be over. And after that, again, they are not interested in you. Whether you are sleeping, you are reading newspaper, or whether you are in the TV room, or you are singing songs, they are not interested. Again, their test will start on the next morning after breakfast.
That's again a
So
good
there
advice.
are, don't be like, there are people, they say like this. I said, yaar, who has got that time in the world? Another thing, I like to tell people that SSB name itself is Service Selection Board. There are some myths, people say that board is a rejection board, that board is rejection board. You must have heard in those days. Yes. Their name itself is selection board. They are sitting there to select you, provided you prove yourself. If you do not prove, there can be a batch of 100 that can be sent back on very first day, and there may be maybe 20 odd selection out of 100. So you have to prove yourself. Their name is selection board. And there's nothing, even in any of the, R is not existing in their even spelling also.
Yeah.
What to talk of rejection? So I think prepare well. One officer has to be, anybody who wants to be an officer, he has to be well versed with what is happening in the world. If today anybody, whether going for ND or CDS, and if you ask him what is the problem in Manipur, and he says, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something is wrong.
Problem.
He may not know the capital of Manipur. He may not know the language of Manipur.
Yes, but
he may not know the chief minister or governor of. His GK is bad, acceptable. But his awareness has to be. Tomorrow, if we are talking to anybody about Biparjoy, he said, I don't know. Any information about, even he may not know which corner is Gujarat. But if he should be aware there was some problem, cyclone in Gujarat, that's what SSB is expecting from.
I think it's a good point. We'll end it on that note. It's a very good discussion, Colonel Rajvir Singh. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dev. Thank you, Bhalla.
Rajvir Sharma,
And thanks, Anna, courtesy, whom we could reach here. And I'm so grateful to you, the complete team. And the two cameramen, I don't know their name, I'm very sorry, but I'm very grateful to you. And it was a wonderful visit.
Yeah.
First time I have come this side, and I will cherish this moment.
Yeah, thank you so much. And once again, I end this episode totally envious of you, Abhishek, because once again, just that short 1 hour interaction with an army officer has just told me, like, is this fantastic? Like the last time we had one, Major Samartur, also retired from the army. I was equally fascinated, and even this time, I just enjoyed. And the reason I'm envious is because I'm guessing ये तो आपके लिए रोज का काम है. Like हाँ रोज कुछ कहनी तो बातचीत कर लिया थोड़ा मजा आता होगा तो. Great, thanks so much once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Abhishek. Busy day, I know, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping this was some sort of a nice relief from your
It was.
stressful day job.
And also a relatively lighter topic
Lighter topic,
to discuss.
Yeah.
But a very informative one.
Very informative one, yeah. And I'd love to see what our listeners and viewers have to say about this episode or any other episode that we've done on this podcast. Do drop us a text. You can text us at 8588966996 or an email to us at pods@indiatoday.com. That's pods@indiatoday.com. That's it for this week's Defense Dose. For more, tune in next week. Till then, stay safe and do not cross any boundaries with your passport. Bye bye.